So this work got published in a very nice journal called Frontiers in Pharmacology, and we could show, yes, indeed, if for cancer, these drug works. Similarly, for phytochemistry, we do a chemical characterization. So you can see these are the work that got published. And I'm very happy to show that some of our work has also come as a cover page of a journal. That is actually considered very well. I mean, for scientists, it's like, icing on the cake, that we do a research, it get accepted into a paper, it goes in a good journal, and then the journal select the data to place it on the cover page of that issue. That's become fantastic. So we have been fortunate so far. We have 5 cover page articles so far in various journals, and that we can clap for. All right, I will have more juice for you. Yes, please.
All this research you're doing, and when you find the solutions, do you patent the process and the ingredients itself?
Right. So the sir has asked that do we patent the ingredient of the medicine that we work with? Acharya and Swamiji has made this rule from day one itself. To popularize Ayurveda, it is must that it is open and free to people. So all the drugs that we have, their compositions are very well defined on each packet of that drug, and they are not patented by Patanjali. Anyone can, if they really want it, they can see the ingredient, they can mix it together and make it themselves.
Don't put you at a disadvantage with the drug companies, because they'll copy your drugs and your hard work.
Right. So what really happens, the art in Ayurveda is to making that extract, right? For example, if I talk about Tulsi, all of you know Tulsi, right? So Tulsi leaves are very good for throat, for example, or taking care of the fever. But when you convert the Tulsi leaves into a tablet, you're going through a process. That process involves extraction of the active component, generating enriched extract which has the right amount of phytochemicals. That path itself is very sensitive, right? So that part is with Patanjali. We have not patented it because, again, it's just that we want to show that you can use these herbs to get treatment benefit. And if everyone start to do it, this will definitely take Ayurveda forward. It will make awareness for the people how these drugs could work, and if they work, they can make it themselves too. If pharma company want to go for that way, we are looking forward to it. That'll be very nice, because then they would start accepting the science that we are talking about. Right now, they say that herbal drugs are more like nutraceuticals. They are more of health supplement. They are not for the treatment. That's a thought process people on that part of the world have been thinking. So if they get convinced that there is a sizable treatment benefit could come from herbal drugs, fantastic, we will be very happy. And then the whole thing would start. But that's a very good question, sir. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
In your chart of symptom diseases, where does dementia fit?
Dementia fits into neurological diseases over here. So if you see cognitive functions, learning and memory, so learning and memory deficit is dementia. So we are working on dementia, working on Alzheimer's, we are working on Parkinson's, schizophrenia, and also now start to look for how to manage the stress. Animal models are excellent model for the same kind of work. So we induces those kind of diseases in rats and mice, get them depressed, get them, forget things, and you give them tasks that they cannot achieve or repeat. And then if you give them the drugs, for example, Medabati or Memory Grid, you tend to see a very good reversal, which is very exciting indeed. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please do.
You just spoke about the extract from the Tulsi, for example. So just a question, like which one is more efficient, like the real Tulsi leaves or extracted?
All right, that's a good question too. So what really happens that there is a natural variance in herbs. For example, if you take a Tulsi and you collect it now in winters and you collect the same in summer, you would see a variance of the phytocompounds. Inside our body, it's a biochemistry that works. Right? When you take a medicine, our body doesn't know it's an allopathy versus Ayurveda versus homeopathy. Inside, the compound has to click. That compound concentration in a leaf of Tulsi would vary by season and also by geography. For example, the one you take in North India and you take the similar Tulsi in South India, you would see a change. So that becomes a big challenge. So what you do when you take an extract for a larger batch, you are getting towards homogeneity. Suppose you take 10 tulsi leaves, which you will take in a day, which would have in variance if you go for next month. But if you take 10 tons of the tulsi leaves, merge them together, extract together, then you will get an homogeneous extract, which would potentially would be having a reproducible result as you take it forward. So I suggest, if it's possible to take tablets, but if you can find fresh that works for you, nothing beats it.
So you mean the extract would have more?
It's enriched, right? So for example, 1 kilo of the dry leaves, not the wet leaves, 1 kilo of the dry leaves would generate 100 grams of extract. So one tablet would be equivalent to having 10 leaves or so. But thank you. Sir.
So I wanted to ask, like with the allopathy medicine, we got a system of preventing some of the medicine with the higher side effects, being making a prescription only medicine, or we call it a controlled drugs, which can be only prescribed or cannot be freely sort of available or obtained by the patient. So do we have any such system where we can protect the patient? Because at the end of the day, our job is to protect the patient, and the safety comes first.
That's correct. So for patient safety, now I like to say two things. In synthetic word, allopathic drugs, when you do the drug development or drug discovery, you're looking for two parameters. One is the efficacy, that at what dose you start to see a treatment benefit. And then you see adverse effect, toxicology, and you see at what dose you start to see the toxicology. You take a ratio of that. That ratio is called therapeutic index, right, called TI. In allopathic system, if you have a TI of 2 or 3 for normal diseases, it is considered okay because that margin you are playing with it. So you need to be yet careful that the total dose of the drug or the bioaccumulation of the drug inside the body should not become 3 times or 4 times, because that would induce adverse effect, which you need to protect the patient, which is normal rule of the game, and everyone understand that. In Ayurveda, the advantage for you is your TI is close to 1000. Your efficacy is happening at a dose A, and then your adverse effect, they will happen 1000 times of the X. So your play field is actually very large. For example, Tulsi generally will not have a side effect. If you eat a like 5 kilo, then you might have a side effect, right? Adverse effects are always dose driven. So at some dose you would see the side effect. At that time, one need to be careful. So having said that, there are drugs which are protected, as you mentioned, that those are only be given when a physician or Ayurvedic Vaidya are prescribing it. Some drugs containing very specific poisonous plants are giving in a very tiny amount for a specific need. Those are being actually controlled. Similarly, there are certain heavy metal bhasmas which we use as well. For example, arsenic, lead. If you think about it, most of the modern doctor would not like to touch it with the 10-foot pole. They say no, 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 right? But arsenic in Ayurveda text for 1,000 years have been in clinical practice. It's just that the dose is very tiny. The dose is how much? Half a rati. A rati is 125 milligram a day. So they say if you make a bhasma out of arsenic called Malla Sindoor, the human dose would be 62 mg a day for the whole human body. At that dose, it has a very good impact on lungs. So people who have COPD, asthma, bronchitis, or even pulmonary edemas, they tend to respond very well to that kind of drug. But again, that drug is not available over the counter. The doctors or physicians will judge the situation and prescribe it with the defined dose. So that protection happens in Ayurveda, and we have been following that. But sir, thank you for asking.
Just on the top of that question, just out of my curiosity.
Please, ma'am.
So, turmeric, haldi. So, the bioaccumulation of turmeric can also be an issue. Although I also take turmeric milk almost every day, and it is heavily advertised and advocated in Ayurveda and the normal Indian practice. So bioaccumulation of turmeric can pose certain long-term health risks because of the because there can be some heavy metals. For example, lead can pose a long-term health issue. So when our dadis and nannies and everybody has been advocating turmeric is good, so how do we ensure, and I'm sure you would have done a lot of work on that, especially because you're talking about the toxicity of these heavy metals. So how do you do and how do you make the people aware and how do you control it?
That's a very good question. That call for a clause of what we call a round of the claps, right? Which is good too. Now, what you're talking about, lead coming with haldi, right? This is not naturally occurring. This is contamination. This is adulteration. This is during the sowing. It's there in the field. In the same field, if you're sowing a potato or sweet potato, they will also get laced with that heavy metal. Now, the point there is, if any medicine has any of those heavy metals which are coming as a part of adulteration, it's the job of the manufacturer to test it. Patanjali makes sure that every drug, every batch of a drug get tested for the heavy metals. Government of India has a defined set line. For example, lead you mentioned. Their set line is close to 5 ppm. That means 5 parts per million should be the max limit of lead allowed. So we test all the drugs that we manufacture for lead, mercury, arsenic, and all kind of heavy metal that could happen, and make sure that they are not getting released. Second part is about that if there is a bioaccumulation happening for heavy metal come from food, heavy metal also come from with water as well. So if there is what we are eating, if we know what we are eating, then we are safe. But if we are just eating or drinking what is going in our body, accumulation may happen. But we cannot and we should not just label turmeric is the bali ka bakra कि भाई इन्हीं के साथ आ रहा है, ऐसा नहीं है. It can come from any part of the food. Just we have to be careful what we are doing it. But what is more critical for turmeric, which I think you might want to mention in the next question, because I'm reading a question on a face, is about bioavailability. Because when we take turmeric, not all the turmeric goes on our body. Close to 95% give a color to our feces, right? Rest is not being absorbed. So what becomes critical, can we make it better bioavailable turmeric? Can we make a turmeric which is more absorbed in our body, so then we can decrease the dose and get the treatment benefit? So the curcumin 95, the tablet from Patanjali that you'll see, it contains 95% bioavailable curcumin. So that would mean that it's a purified, extracted curcumin which has been processed in such a way that it would get absorbed to the max. If you compare with the raw turmeric, the powder or the fresh turmeric thing, their absorption would be low. Having said that, turmeric also have a component which is fat soluble. That means if you put with ghee, it is better. If you put in water, it may not be good. So if you put with milk, which has a good quality of fat, then the absorption of that turmeric gets better and you reap the maximum benefit without any heavy metals, of course. Right? Thank you very much indeed.
You sell a jam called Chavanprash.
That's a very nice thing. I would not like to call it jam, but yes, indeed, it's fine. I would just...
And I read somewhere that the vitamin C content of that is something like 1,000 times more powerful than a vitamin C tablet. Do you have any information about that? Because that sounds really interesting.
Well, actually, the base of Chavanprash jam is amla, gooseberry, Indian gooseberry, right? And amla is a very rich source of vitamin C. Ascorbic acid, which is a chemical name for vitamin C, is there in amla. So if you can take amla ghanbati or take a amla candy, it would also have a same quantity of vitamin C. So Chavanprash would have a good quantity of vitamin C, of course. It has been processed in such a way that every spoonful will give you a daily required value of vitamin C. And in cold or in UK, of course, when it's snowing and we need warmth from inside, Chavanprash is an awesome thing to have. You can apply on the bread as well, indeed. It tastes very nice. So in that way, it's a good jam. Right, very more query. Ma'am, please.
Is there any medicine for epilepsy?
Yes, so there is a medicine for epilepsy. I would, of course, advise to talk to the physicians here because they can actually tell you which drug and how much to take. But I take a risk of dropping the names, which is Medhabati and Neurogrit. These are two medicines which are generally given for epilepsy, and a lot of people exhibit treatment benefit with these drugs.
So it's not available to general. Got to be a physician, It must be a doctor to prescribe it.
That's correct. So you will see the doctors here. When you are here, you meet the doctors here. They will prescribe and then you can carry with you. They are there in our stores.
Is it available in UK also?
I think it's there in UK as well. Mataji would definitely have. It is, there we go. I think Medapati is there. I saw it over there. And I'm sure Neurogrid as well. Oh, she bought it. There we go. Can you help ma'am over there? All right, anything else before I go to my next slide? Yes, sir, please.
Yes, all this talk so far has been talked about the way forward to everything that Patanjali is doing. So where does the reverse is the way forward?
Right. Thank you very much, sir. I'm very happy that you asked this question. Let's clap for it, right? You guys clap a bit little. I don't know why. Maybe it's too cold for you? No. So I would humbly request to hold the thought for 10 more slides. I'll come back to it and explain to you that why I believe reverse is the really way forward. All right, so we saw the cancer. That's the work we did with cancer. This is the work we did with chemical characterization, clinical research, all the work we do with the patients and see how they're reaping treatment benefit. They get combined together and get published in various journals. For clinical research, this is for infectious diseases. COVID was one part of that as well, and we have been doing a lot of work on ashwagandha and trying to find out how does it really happen and what happened. Let me close this. And inflammation, that is the core competency of Ayurveda. Ayurvedic drugs generally deal with inflammation beautifully. Like in synthetic words, it's very hard to take care of inflammation. We go for steroids or immunomodulators. But these herbal medicines had really nice control over inflammation, be it in bones, be in kidney, be in liver. For example, liver, there's nothing else, right? So herbal drugs work very well for the liver inflammation, and we have worked a lot. So you see a lot of publications that are there on inflammatory biology. So far, in last 4 years, we have been very happy to publish close to 125 research publication in high impact factor journals. That means the quality of journal tells you how good you are publishing. And the quality you measure by looking at impact factor. That means if you publish in a good journal, it has an impact factor. Impact factor 2, 3 is considered okay, 4, 5, 6 considered excellent. So if you see the total impact factor of the work is more than 500, and the average impact factor of every work that we've been doing is more than 4+, which is really, really remarkable coming from an Ayurveda background. Because when we started the whole journey, it was very difficult to get even one research paper published, because most of the scientific editors on the journals would ask, what is this drug? Half of them would ask back, asking what is Ayurveda. So first we tell them what is Ayurveda, then we tell them what is the drug, and then we say how the drug is showing an efficacy or the impact. It was very challenging. First 2 years was literally like teething problems. We are going through really lot of rejections, really. But then we remain persistent, and Acharya says one thing very nice that always echoes in my ears. He said, आप आवाज मत करो, आपकी ध्वनि की कोई वैल्यू नहीं है, आपकी कर्म की ध्वनि दूर तक जाती है. तो मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगा. बताइए कि when you work it out, the sound of your hard work will go very far. And now these are the few sounds that we are seeing. And if you're clapping, that's one more good sound that we are seeing too, right? So looking at the outcome that happens because the research that we have been conducting from the whole team of scientists has been truly rewarding. I mean, for a person like me, I'm a biomedical researcher. So doing a research on a various parameters and getting them published into a very nice journal with the good comments coming from reviewers and editors, you really feel happy. It's like, sir is a doctor, right? When he see a patient who come with a problem and you kind of give him a treatment benefit, or he or she walks beautifully, you feel happy, right? That happiness, the inner happiness comes very well when we do this kind of work. Alrighty. Now we come for the thing that I've been asking you to hold. What was this? Reverse is the new way forward. And why I'm saying it. So this is slightly more philosophical, more practical as well. And I'll try to go very slow on it, right? So if you talk about drug discovery from synthetic word, from allopathy word, where you synthesize the drug, the team of medicinal chemists synthesize the drug. Before coming to Patanjali, like 6 years before, I was working for pharma company. I was working for a Japanese company called Daiichi Sankyo. Prior to this, I was working for Ranbaxy. And for 11 years, I was doing this only. I have a colleague in chemistry who will synthesize the compound. We will test them in cells or in mice or in animals, and then take them to the clinical trials, like this, which is called conventional path. Molecule that you synthesize in the lab, test in mice, and then you go to man. That way is a conventional path. And it takes good 10 years for a one drug to actually, one molecule to become a drug, 10 years, and close to $10 billion. And the chances of success are also low. Why? Because the drug can get conked off at any part of the whole journey. Maybe you have a very good drug which shows impact in the animals, but when you go towards man, it may not show an efficacy or show a very selected issues, or may have a toxicity which you have not tested in preclinical condition. So this path is very risky. Most of the pharma company, they charge a lot of money because of this, because the failures are a lot. Every drug that goes to market has to pay for the drug, or has to pay for the compound that did not make it to a drug. All the failures has to get accounted for. That's the reason they are so expensive and the risks are very high. So how do we deal with it? The dealing is reverse path. What's the reverse path? The reverse path comes in the picture largely because in the conventional path, the bigger risk area is in the man. That means when you do a clinical trial, probably you will have the higher risk. Your drug may not show an efficacy, or you see a toxicity which you have not expected. That risk can be dialed off by going towards traditional knowledge-inspired drugs. For example, you're talking about tulsi, we're talking about giloy, haldi. We know for centuries they have been in clinical practice. What does that mean? That means they are efficacious and they are safe. So to risk, you take it off from the clinical research component. That means you already know the drug would work in man, because you already have a data. You know tulsi work, you know haldi work, you know everything that is there, which have been described in our classical texts, which are 1,500 or 2,000 years old, which have been in the practice as well, right? So this gives you this benefit that if you go back, you take a reverse path, start from man, go to mice, because we know Ayurvedic drugs, traditional drugs work, but we don't know how they work. And the acceptability lies on this factor that we know how they work, so that we will know mode of action. That mode of action in Ayurveda have been missing for quite a while. Now, if we focus here, we take from man, go to mice, do an animal model and show what are the modality of the drug action, and go to molecule and see which compound of that drug, which compound of that extract has a capability. So then you would be able to take this whole path of pharmacology in a reverse direction, and that's what we call reverse pharmacology. And that is the new way forward. Understood? Very nice. So what we found, that if you go this path, that in 3 years' times, and maybe 1/100th of the total cost, you would be able to take a drug that is inspired by traditional knowledge. And that would become not the Ayurvedic drug. That would become a drug which can be prescribed by any physician in the world. For example, if we can convince with the set of data to FDA, they will now take botanicals as a drug now, if we have these set of data. And you show ashwagandha with this component would have that activity, super good. So they will approve it as a botanical drug, then any allopathic doctor can also prescribe that. Once that start to happen, then you are taking a giant leap in the understanding and the application of Ayurveda. And talking of the leap, have you seen a tiger taking a leap? When tiger take a leap, it put the 2 feet ahead and stretch the whole body, back side, reverse side, and take a giant leap forward. So again, going back is the new way forward. Righty? Any query on this slide? Generally, I get a lot of comments on this slide. Yes, sir, please.
So obviously, I think the safety factor is the one which has given you the path to go there. And as you say, the cost is an extremely important factor for the mass population in India, because what Swamiji has done, he has taken out the mystic sense out of pranayama and got it to the common people of the India. And that's what you are doing with the medicines. because as you know, the pharmaceutical industry, it is extremely expensive and difficult to do the drug. So effectively, you got a very good safety profile on it. Do you have any clinical trials on the efficacy on the unit?
Of course. So, efficacy is what you said is written there. Safety, most important starting point, and efficacy is a matter of validation. So we are in the process of validating it. Right now we are running 18 different clinical trials at different centers outside Patanjali. In AIMS, we are conducting trials. There are 3 trials running on the AIMS Delhi, AIMS Rishikesh, AIMS Jodhpur, and 2 trials we are conducting at Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, where we're doing the experiments with the cancer medications. So one of the very known cancer medication is cisplatin, which is given as a first line of therapy. And the cisplatin has a huge adverse effect on kidney. Nephrotoxicity, which is a damage to kidney, is a very common outcome that you see in the patients who are taking cisplatin. But since they are treating with their cancer, they are okay to live with the damaged kidney. बोले पहले कैंसर ठीक हो जाए बाद में इसको देखेंगे.